Hello, my podcast people. This is estate planning attorney Leslie Marenco bringing you another episode of Having Fun with Death and Taxes. And today I am joined for this episode. This is like an extra special treat because Vero is not an estate planning attorney. She is a family law attorney. And there is so much intersection between our practice areas that is sometimes, I should say all the time, very interesting, but sometimes not so opportune. So Vero, please introduce yourself and what you do.
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm very excited to be here. I love doing podcasts.
Says no one ever.
Says no one ever. No, but I actually do. I really do enjoy it. It's like a conversation. It's like a very educative and informative conversation. So I do marital and family law. We focus on divorces, paternities, prenuptials, postnuptials, relocations, post-judgments, modifications. All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff. You know, I joke because, a part of what we do here is, of course, planning. But the administration, like the probate administration particularly, and all the litigation that comes from it, I joke it's like family law round two. Sometimes there was family law issues before. Yeah. And this is it just goes wild right after the fact. Because now, whatever glue the parent was that held everybody together so they were on at least somewhat good behavior.
It's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. And so you didn't, have to go through what I went through and you got the pony and I didn't get a pony and all of this bullshit that is in the back of everybody's mind just somehow oozes back out at some point.
Yeah. No, and in family law, it's interesting because I have to kind of know a little bit about every field of law because
it's the intersection.
Probate, real estate law, because we sell houses and marriage and divorces.
Sure.
Then you have contracts.
For sure.
Then there's businesses. Then there's taxes.
Right.
Like claiming you have to know a little bit about every single spectrum of the law to kind of be able to give your client some form of an educated answer in relation to all these other issues that they're dealing with,
Yeah.
So
even the quirky thing about retirement plans and whatever inside of the family law context,
absolutely.
Right? Like
quadros.
The infamous quadros that people will call here all the time because they just have no idea who to call, I think. I don't even know what they're Googling.
Yeah, it's a niche.
I don't even know what they're Googling, really.
It's a niche.
And they end up calling here going like, I got a divorce and I need to split my whatever. And you guys are estate planning attorneys, right? And we're like, whoa, hold on. Let's take a step back.
Well, I mean, that's because they had a bad attorney. Because I would never let a client leave without their quadro in their hand. Yeah, no. They need to do it during the whole process.
And you do that.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, today we're going to be talking about the estate of none other than James Brown, the Godfather of Soul. And so I'll break down the estate a little bit for you.
God rest his soul.
God rest his soul. And then a little bit about what the planning was. But we're really going to dig in today with you the many, many, many family law issues that came up in this estate. Because there was over 16 years of litigation. There's going to be a lot of litigation in the background of what we're going to discuss about getting rid of the trustees or fighting about money or other things. But we're going to break down the three most, because it's not super common that I get like the trifecta of family law issues in one estate, which was what made this estate so interesting, so fun, so fun to talk about. So James Brown passed away in 2006. And I love things in timeline fashion. So 2006, he was then married to Tommy Ray, but recently married. He married her in 2001. So this is not exactly very long term of a marriage. No. But, with these celebrities, they got a lot of love to give, and it seems like they have multiple marriages all the time. Right. So
they can't get their crap together.
They also don't like to be alone. I don't know what it is about these people. They continue to get married. And with Tommy Ray, she had one child, and she very smartly, I think, named him James Brown the second. So there would maybe be
no doubt
that in her mind,
you are the father.
Correct. He had created a will a year before he got married to Tommy Ray. So she wasn't in the will, and neither was James Brown II, born in 2003.
Was that called like an omitted child or something?
So that is going to be a pretermitted potentially spouse. We're going to talk about that, and potentially child, because there's even maybe some claims about like, was that really his child? Of course, right? His estate was allegedly worth, there's estimates somewhere between 90 million and about $120 million, depending on who values, the music catalog and different things.
Right.
So let's just say $100 million to make this easy. So there was actually 6 kids in his will that he named, right? That he's recognizing in whatever way we want to say.
Proud dad.
In his will. Yes. These 6 adults. Now, I mean, by the end of this case, 16 years later, about 9 people were actually recognized. 12 people had, quasi gotten some type of settlement, right? And 15 were like the total number that claimed to have, that's my daddy. Like, that's definitely somehow my daddy.
He had such a great life.
Man, I'm telling you, these people, I guess money just makes things much more interesting.
I know.
Where you could just have all
and then
these
it's funny, like, we can talk about it, but I can't imagine what this guy was dealing with, like, personally, and like all these marriages and kids and the drama, and it's, wow. All these baby mamas.
All the baby mamas.
Do you know what it is to have to deal with all those baby mamas?
I guess there's a lot of lawyers. There's a lot of lawyers involved between him and them. Maybe he, wasn't dealing with much of it. So in his estate plan, he actually doesn't leave much for these 6 kids, by the way, even though the ones he like acknowledges.
Right.
He's like, look, you guys get my personal effects, my clothes, my cars, my jewelry, which I'm assuming, these
some sort
things
of
are
value. Can you sell that?
Right. I'm like, this isn't like the way we think of our clothes and our cars that we're like, thanks, but no thanks. Like, I don't want to do the garage
Nobody's
sale.
going to buy my shirt.
I don't care about your whatever. Like, no. But I'm assuming, James Brown's clothes might be worth something. We actually talk a lot about on this podcast about the wars that happened, particularly in like the Robin Williams estate, over his personal effects.
Oh yeah.
But he was a huge collector of shit, and so that shit was also worth a lot of money. Here, these kids aren't so happy. They're like, the high ticket items, like the songs, the rights to the songs, and the property on the ocean, like that shit was not going to them.
Right.
It was going to some charitable trust for like the poor children of South Carolina. And the kids are like, oh, that's nice, but we don't care. We don't care so much about that.
Right.
He did leave $2 million in a trust to fund the education of his grandchildren. Mind you, I'm sure that pisses off the kids even more.
Right.
Of like, oh, my kids. Oh, that's adorable. What happened to me, right? So
it's like those videos that are like, it's like, oh, mom, she's like nice to the grandchild. And it's like, mom, why don't you show them how crazy you are?
Yeah. Like, why aren't they getting la chancleta the way I got la chancleta?
It's
like,
kind of that situation.
Every like week there was chancleta of like beatings, right? Like, why are you so loving to the grandchildren? Like, this is like gaslighting.
Exactly.
Like, you're being gaslit all over again. And then of course, Ray and James number 2 are not mentioned in any of this estate plan because they did not exist in year 2000. So already we see the brewing problems with this. Again, this is actually very complicated estate, almost 20 years of litigation, issues with trustees, issues with assets.
Like, how much does that probably cost him?
Oh my God.
Well, the estate.
Like how much, like in litigation?
Yeah.
I cannot even.
Millions?
Millions. I mean,
wow.
Millions. I can imagine. Let's just say $1 million a year in what I consider like real litigation that has multiple issues, multiple parties, multiple moving parts is absolutely like a reasonable value.
Wow.
Like $1 million a year is, I think, very reasonable value for the litigation that would have ensued here, actually, I think. Especially with the costs of these trustees that all got kind of booted out one at a time. And then there's like, oh, he mismanaged the money and we want somebody else. And oh, they stole money, right? Like that's the other thing. Like a trustee stole money, whatever. There's always all of these allegations, but we got fun family law stuff to talk about here.
Oh, yeah.
So literally on the day after he died, which would be the 26th of December, right? Where people should be like, I don't know,
happy
food coma. Yeah, like
right.
food coma from like Christmas.
Right.
The kids decided, the legitimate whatever kids, like the kids, the children decided that they were going to go lock up the main property, the main house. And then the surviving spouse could not get into the house. And the reason that they said that was immediately they felt like that marriage was in dispute. And why did they feel that? Because quite literally just a couple of years earlier, there was all of this kind of litigation when James Brown himself found out that his spouse, who he married, he thought he was legitimately married to.
James Brown II's mom.
Yes, that Tommy she was still married. She was still married to somebody she had married just a couple of years before that in 1997. Now, Vero, I think two people that aren't attorneys and the civilians, I call them civilians on this podcast.
Gen Pop.
The Gen Pop, I like that. So people that are not lawyers are probably looking at us like, why are you talking about something like never happens, right? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, who has been married twice, like married to two people at the same time? That's like, I don't know, some like reality TV show shit. Like,
No, it's not.
it's like, how often do you see this, that like somebody doesn't realize that the fact that they never got officially divorced, like piece of paper in hand,
Right.
especially from another country, because that's what
it's
right?
It's not common, but I've had it happen in my career maybe like 5 or 6 times.
Oh,
Where it's like, oh yeah, we were both in Cuba. We got married in Cuba. I came here. He stayed over there. We separated. He said he did the paperwork for the divorce, and I'm like, great. So now,
he said he did the paperwork for the divorce.
So he said he did the paperwork.
Got
he
it.
stayed. She came here. She trusted his word that they got divorced. She got married again. Same issue.
Right.
Went to get divorced. And the husband was like, no, she's still married because she never saw that paper and she always had a doubt.
Oh, so you see in your world the actual spouse that she's trying to divorce from now weaponizing the previous marriage against her.
Right.
Ooh.
Because then now she's entitled to have his stuff.
Right.
Well,
and he's
the
using
marriage,
it as like, we were never married.
Exactly. So
Okay.
do you know how hard it is to get documentation from Cuba?
Sure. I mean, or I guess
It's really hard. And when the document doesn't exist,
I mean, I would say in our world, I would almost tell you it's the opposite level of, because like maybe there's more fraud on my side. I don't know.
Yeah.
Of you tell people, I need this document, without this document, the divorce in Colombia, right? Like whatever it is. And they're like, oh, I got you, babe. And like 2 days later, you get some like bullshit piece of paper like emailed to you that you're like, guys, like the shit here isn't even spelled right. You know what I mean? Like I am sure like the municipality of Bogota does not have misspellings on their like divorce orders or whatever.
But it was, but essentially we had to have the ex-husband in Cuba zoom in and be a witness. And he's like, I think I did it. I'm not sure.
So not even a good witness.
No,
not even a good witness.
I think I did it. I'm not entirely sure. I think, she couldn't, she wasn't entitled to anything.
Yeah.
Because the judge was like, she's probably still married.
Yeah. And so I'll give you the complication in my world, right? Because like this is absolutely weaponized all the time. Usually now it's not the spouse, it's the children from the other marriages that are immediately bringing forth the no, they were never married to my dad. That's all bullshit because X, like we know they were still married to whatever because we heard her call ese tipo en Venezuela el marido instead of el esposo, right? And then there's all of this like, do I need an expert to talk about the slang term marido versus esposo in Spanish?
Right, because like, even boyfriends, ese es el marido de so-and-so.
Exactly, like the whole co-living thing all of a sudden gave them like marido status. Or probably one of the most complex litigations we've had that I can remember that was just like wild was, children from first marriage were the ones that brought forward this claim. But this guy had been married 4 times after he had divorced their mom. So marriage number 1 in New Jersey with their mom. Everybody in the family knew they got a divorce, right? Like, and these people were so old by then that everyone that I could speak to in the family, there weren't many left, were truly like, I mean, yeah, they got a divorce. Of course they got a divorce because he moved to like Tampa. And that was the other thing. Man has lived like nowhere,
my
right?
God.
So like he moved to Tampa and then he got remarried there, and that was spouse number 2. He had children with spouse number 2, wanted nothing to do with this shit show. Then he moved to South America, got married there, apparently got divorced there, left her ass there before he moved back here
Impregnated?
to Miami. That child, believe it or not, also wanted nothing to do with this circus that's going to ensue. And then he married essentially our client here. Mind you, these people are all like 70s, okay? Like our client is like una viejita. Like this is not what you think of as like the pool girl at the Fontainebleau, okay?
Right,
this
of course.
Is, right? Who's been like taking care of this man forever and whatnot. So in literally the funeral home, the children from the first marriage come down from New Jersey. Their mother is still alive, but she's, as I say, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Like that lady has Alzheimer's for years already, is absolutely not going to be a witness to anything.
I was going to say, you can't even have her in court.
And these kids are like, he never divorced my mom. My mom is surviving spouse. And we are like, what? You know, like, wow. Excuse me? Like,
and it's much easier to find documentation from New Jersey.
Girl, this was like a worldwide, like, where has this man ever lived, right? Because there was no divorce in New Jersey. Like, we went looking through all public records all through New Jersey. Then it became well, maybe they divorced when he already moved to Tampa. And I was like, what? Like, this became like hire the private investigators to go looking through every county that this guy's ever lived, every whatever.
Right.
And they're like, but what do you mean he's been married like 100 other times, you know? And I'm like, that is irrelevant.
Right.
If
it doesn't matter.
he never divorced that one, you know? Right. And people like look at you like, you must be wrong. Like, you must be wrong. Like, that's not even, that's the first thing. They look at you like, that's not possible. If he wouldn't have divorced whoever, he couldn't have remarried. And I'm like, you think that the county,
there's
in
Tampa,
did like
is gonna say, hey, by the way, I'm here in Florida. Did he ever live here? No.
That nowhere in the world did this guy ever marry or divorce somebody else. Like, no.
You think that we'd have enough technology to create some sort of like system for that?
No existe. Like, it does. That does not exist. And people are sometimes like blown away by that.
The honor system.
Yes.
The clerks are like following the honor system. You're divorced, right? All right, you can get married.
Sign here. Like, go for it. Like, pay your
fee.
Pay your fee. Like, that not our problem.
Marriage
right?
license fee.
That is to be settled somewhere else another day. So in this case, imagine James Brown himself finds out about this, gets, I guess, very upset because he files a case to annul his marriage from Tommy here. And this whole thing ensues, but it settles. And the problem with it settling, as we're going to learn, is that there is no real court order that actually determines any of these issues, whether she was married or wasn't married or got a divorce or didn't get a divorce. Right. All we know is that the marriage did not get annulled, and that somewhere in this settlement agreement, it actually says some very cute language about, like, you can never claim common law with me, which kind of implies that we are now divorced, but they're not, because... I mean, well, they were never married, I guess, right? But there's no determination, at least not in black and white anywhere, that says we were never married, this is void. There's no determination of even if we were married, now we're divorced, or this is annulled. Right. And all there is some weird language about you can never claim to be my common law spouse ever in the future. So a lawyer just kind of flopped that in there, maybe in an abundance of caution. I guess
South Carolina, right?
Of like, this is South Carolina
must have common law.
So they must have something where... You know, I guess if they would have been together for X amount of years, right? So explain actually common law marriage to the public, because we do get every now and then somebody being like, of course I'll marry him. Like, we live together.
And that's very, so I,
like, we love each other. We live together. We're married. Like, obviously.
Marido.
Obvio. Mi marido. Sí, mi marido. Like,
So it's a lot of the people that I get, the clients that I get from South America, who are like, because, you know, we've lived together all these years, so eso es common law marriage in their language. And they look at you like, except you're getting divorced in Florida and there's no common law marriage in Florida. And they're like, wait, but what do you mean? And I'm like, there's no common law marriage in Florida.
You a single woman.
Yeah.
Single ladies.
And she's like, but what about all the money that I've put into this house? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's not your house. But I've been living here. We've been living here for 30 years. I'm like, I understand that, but like, it was his house before. What, did you buy it together? Like, there's so many aspects to that. But yeah, it happens all the time. No, common law marriage does not exist in Florida.
I mean,
I break a lot of hearts when I tell people that, and it's quite sad, but I mean,
and I think for good reason, most of the states have done away with this kind of thing, right? Because this whole we've been together for X amount of years.
Getting married is one thing, right? Like if you want to give somebody all these rights and you want to just I'm giving you every single interest in all this stuff that I have, all these assets, you can do that. You want to do that? Great. Here, you get married.
Yes.
If you don't want to do that, just don't get married.
Exactly.
So I agree with no comment
that
on
it's
marriage.
much easier, black and white.
Absolutely.
Either you're not a little bit pregnant, right? Like there aren't.
Exactly.
And that's it.
Right.
And so I feel like people have this especially in civil law countries, right? This misconception of no, mi marido, whatever, and then the shit show, of course, will happen later. In your world, people are still alive, and people are still maybe even more animosity and everything else is probably happening there. Yeah. In my world, we have more factual issues because somebody's dead, right? And everybody's just talking garbage about whatever it is they're talking garbage about. You had mentioned this. One of the things you can possibly do to alleviate I paid for the fence, the $50,000 for the pool, the fence, the roof, the whatever it is. So what can people that don't want to get married, but are living together and, what can they do?
So a cohabitation agreement, it's a contract. It's a contract that if it comes to a point where you do have to separate, but you do have bank accounts together, properties together, businesses together, how it's going to be divided if the relationship were to end. You don't file it in family court because let's say you don't have any children with the person. You would file it in civil court if they don't follow the agreement. You know what I mean?
So outside
it's a contract. It's just, that's why I said family law.
This is just breach of contract.
Exactly.
If you don't have any kids.
Exactly.
And so you would do that just in circus civil. Exactly. But if you do have kids, you could do this as part of a paternity. Of a paternity action.
And if there's things that don't fall into the paternity case, you can still use it and enforce it in a civil case.
And we're going to talk more about this paternity thing, but I think explain a little bit to our lovely audience. Paternity, I think in the most general, right, the way even other lawyers that aren't family lawyers think about it is just this is baby daddy, right? You got to go now, you think, okay, mom needs child support. I file paternity to get baby daddy to pay my child support, right? In the most basic, whatever.
Right.
But it's so much more complicated than that in so many other contexts that are so royally fucked. It's amazing. It's amazing. Because, and we're going to discuss, so maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but about James Brown II and his paternity action. Because this comes up in so many other ways that we've gone down the rabbit hole of research where we're oh my God, call a family lawyer and somebody tell me how this is reasonable or how this makes sense or how this whatever in estate worlds. But give us some examples of or I guess no, my actual bar question. One of my bar exam questions were Sally and John are married and have little Joey, right? And then John finds out that little Joey ain't his, and he up and leaves the house and stops paying whatever. He just abandons the family and goes, I got no problems with this because that kid ain't mine, so I don't give a shit, right? And what ensues from that. But in Florida, we have some quirky hey, your name's on the birth certificate. And so break down some of these little nuances that people get really tripped up on.
Yeah. So in that case, specifically that you just said, he's still on the hook because he's still the legal father. You have to disestablish him as the legal father.
So you are legal father. The second your name is on that birth certificate.
And 60 days, it doesn't get rescinded. Yes, on the acknowledgement of paternity. Yes.
And so there's going to be a whole process to
disestablish
this relationship, this legal relationship.
So I've done quite a few divorces and disestablishments.
Oh, is that really what it's called, a disestablishment?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's a petition for dissolution and disestablishment.
Whoa.
Because it's he found out that the child wasn't his, and he's screw this, I'm getting divorced.
Right.
But he's technically the legal father.
Right.
So you have to file a divorce, and then you have to disestablish this guy as the dad.
Yeah.
And then file a paternity action for real dad. Bio dad. Bio dad. because the kid's got to get paid from somewhere.
Yeah. And so then you got to go get, I guess if bio dad doesn't agree that he's bio dad, you got to go like
You have to do a DNA.
force DNA and whatever.
You
He
have
doesn't
to.
like abscond the jurisdiction. Like,
Right, exactly.
You got to find him.
No,
to, like,
absolutely.
get the,
you have to serve him.
Like,
Like,
you know what I
you have
mean?
to get a court order for that. Yeah. But it happens every day.
Man.
It happens.
And I'll tell you, I think this is very raw in my world. When me and one of my associates are constantly, as these cases have come up, we have very different value judgments about these things, actually, me and one of my litigators. And so we end up arguing about stuff like this all the time because there's like a rule in my world, in a state, that like if you have kind of admitted, acknowledged, whatever, you have kind of even acquiesced at this point sometimes, because it really comes down to whatever the judge thinks. In any court order, like we have a case where it wasn't a domestic violence court, it wasn't a paternity court order, it wasn't but like they talk about like the child, like this is the father of the child and whatever, in a domestic violence court order. And now that child, who is not the biological child of the deceased, is absolutely claiming they're entitled to a portion of the estate like any other child.
Do you guys require some sort of acknowledgement or marriage certificate?
The statute is just like, if this paternity has been acknowledged anywhere in any court writing,
there's a final judgment on the paternity.
Like, not even. Oh, that would be nice. That'd be adorable.
Oh my God.
Eso sería tan lindo. Like, no.
A partial
anything. No, like your dumbass agreed that you're the father in a domestic, like it's just like.
He acknowledged
like,
it.
It was acknowledged,
I am
right? Even though like everybody and their grandma knew that's not his kid.
That's enough.
Like, and so that's what we're usually litigating. Is it enough? Because the statute is so like that, you know, it's gone literally in different directions every time.
Oh my goodness.
We've had this come up. And I don't know why in the last 4 years, we've particularly had this come up.
Well, I mean,
like,
see,
that's
important. That's important for a family attorney to know, because it's like, okay, I need to make sure that if he doesn't know he's bio dad, we're not going to put that in an order.
Right.
So, but then that's malpractice if you did that. So.
Exactly. I mean, it's kind of crazy because I don't think like when this first occurred, when this situation first, I called what I call my loving dinosaur, like, I don't know, brain, whatever group, right? Of like old probate attorneys.
Right.
Of like, guys, have you seen this? Like this is a circus. Like now because as soon as they lost the first case that we had, they actually lost on this idea. One of our judges, and this is all public record, Fernandez, we only have a limited amount of judges, and unlike in family, we only have a few probate judges, right? So one of our probate judges was very like, hey, you're not the kid? No, we're not doing this, right? And the second they lost on that first round and there was a court order that did say that this was the child, blah, 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 not in a paternity action, but it was acknowledged. But Fernandez was very like, no, I'm not buying this. You know, he's more conservative, strict constructionist. I don't know, whatever, right? So then they turned around and they were like, well, we think we are the child, exhume the body. And I'm like, guys, this is not a Law and Order episode. Like, we're not exhuming the body, right? So then the litigation became that. Like, it was really a threat. They knew the sister, who was the only other person that could inherit in this estate, would be very, very upset. She was very religious. And that was the way for them to settle. So we didn't need to exhume the body. I don't think Fernandez ever needed to, decide whether we exhumed the body or not. The next time this case came up, maybe 9 months later, a whole different case. And the case went in the totally opposite direction. And one of our other judges actually was like, based on the way I read the statute, this domestic violence court order is sufficient. And my head like almost exploded. That's insane. Like my head all right, like the emoji, guys.
That's insane.
And I'll tell you, my associate does not feel as strongly as I do. I'm very like, bro, blood is blood. I like the white and black kind of like no common law. Like, you know what I mean? I like that either you signed the paper or you didn't, you are or you aren't married.
Right.
Either that is your biological child or it isn't. I don't kind of like this, like in some random 1978 shit that we can barely read because the ink is so whatever, right? That somebody beat somebody else. Like this isn't even a paternity court order, right? Like that all of a sudden this person is an heir. Like that to me is crazy talk. That's what it is, right?
That's
so
insane.
Imagine, and then you start digging into this and like, oh my God, but are they or aren't they on the birth certificate? And I'm like, bueno, but even if they were on the birth certificate, if there was no court action doing this, what is it now? Disestablishment.
Paternity?
Right? Because maybe dad doesn't care, right? For this purpose. Like, you know, like
but
dad stayed with mom.
If you don't disestablish, the child is going to inherit everything.
But let's say, this is something that came up actually, can you disestablish outside of a paternity action? The kid is now 25, right? Like, and then your estate planning attorney tells you, oye, mijo, this is a problem. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like this kid, your name is on his birth certificate, whatever, we need to, like, specifically disinherit him. But if you don't do a will or something disinheriting him, he's going to inherit from you. It's not like you're going to go to Vero and be like, oh yeah, I need to like get rid of this. Kid's 25.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, can we disestablish?
The court doesn't have jurisdiction at that point.
Right.
But you do a will.
You do, for sure. Yeah. Clearly, like do your estate planning, guys, right? Like, but
very important.
When me and my associate, because we love to argue case law all the time. Me and this associate. Like, he is a very stubborn, like, and I am too. Like, and so we just like fight all the time, right? It's great. It's actually very entertaining for everyone else in the office.
I bet.
Or maybe not. Maybe they'll slam their doors like, can you guys shut the fuck up? But we do. And I was like, that, when you thought it through to that extent, right? If somebody doesn't do their estate plan, it is ridiculous that you're going to try to disestablish a 25-year-old or an adult. Like, eso no existe, right? That was, and I actually didn't know that. I just assumed that as I thought through this whole kind of like legal exercise of like, what jurisdiction does a civil court or any other court, like, and we actually didn't know the answer to that. So now we do. Javi, pay attention. Now we know the answer. You cannot disestablish a 25-year-old. The court no longer has
jurisdiction.
Because there's no, I guess, monetary, because there's still an interest. There's still, as I just said, in my world, there's still a huge right.
But then you do your will.
You should do your will, yes.
You're going to have to do your will.
So, very interesting. Because we did not know the answer to that, actually, as we fought for 2 hours. Like, going, because he's just like, what do you mean? They could still go and, like, you know, remove them as their kid. And I'm like, how? How do you remove them as your kid when they're old? Like, what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean? So, very interesting. Okay, back to James Brown. So what happened in this case actually was that the lower court said, oh, mira, they decided all of these things, and so they were still married. That was appealed, and oh my God, this wasn't decided until 16 years later or something. So the South Carolina Supreme Court actually said, I'm sorry, guys. You guys are like creating a huge like legal problem when there wasn't. They were never married because she was still married. Right. Punto. Point blank. And there's no common law marriage here. This has nothing to do with that. Like, we are dealing with the first issue, so we are done. Like, mom, she is not the surviving spouse. Like, it is over. Caso cerrado. I can't believe this is being litigated for 16 years. It is clear as day, guys. That's not happening. That's insane. Right? So let's move on to the other, because there's so much more litigation happening in this case that is even more, I think, entertaining, actually. So there was a bunch of rumors that in the 80s, after, Mr. Brown, who was a lover, not a fighter, apparently, and had all these spouses, all these children, and probably women coming out of the woodwork trying to get, some money from him. Yeah. He apparently had told his family that he had a vasectomy, right? So like all of a sudden, when his now spouse, not spouse, is pregnant with James Brown, numero dos, he kind of was like, I love this kid. He didn't say anything about it. There's nothing in the record about what he said about it. But clearly the second he passes away, his 6 main children, legitimate, whatever you want to call them, the 6 main players here that are the offspring, like that are actually named in the will.
Unless they look alike.
They're like his kid,
First of all, he had a vasectomy.
Remember, they're already pissed that they're getting like the clothes and the car.
Right. They're not getting crap. They're getting Orbelia.
And they're like litigating the shit out of that already, right? And they're like trying to get trustees removed and whatever. So they're like, yeah. And that kid ain't our brother. Let's just be very clear. But to me, this whole thing was kind of funny because I was like, well, I guess you do need to, state your rights, right? But even if he was included as your brother, give him the t-shirts, bro. Like, you guys ain't getting shit anyway.
Right,
so
exactly.
So it's kind of interesting, right?
He's a child.
he's a little kid. He was born in 03. Like, he's
baby.
a little kid, you know? So
He doesn't even know, like, where he's standing and forwarding.
So, of course, his spouse, not spouse, goes and gets a, she says this absolutely is his kid, and he is a pretermitted child because the will was done in 2000.
Right.
He was born in 03. Therefore, Judge, I want a DNA test. And she already had previous DNA tests. Actually, she very well knew this was his kid. So clearly the vasectomy rumors, or maybe, I don't know, maybe you extracted the sperm somewhere. I'm assuming you can still get it scientifically.
I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure either. Like,
I'm sure you can.
I'm thinking you can.
Maybe
I don't
you
know.
can go with like a syringe.
I don't know. Because I would.
I could be wrong. I'm not entirely sure.
We're not IVF specialists here. Like, we did not get one of those on the podcast just yet. So, but it was his child. And so this also was appealed. Apparently, they were like, it doesn't matter. This kid wasn't in there. So then they had to bring the claim of the pretermitted as soon as they proved that it was the child. Now we're dealing with the pretermitted whatever child, etc. So what was interesting about that was that what is this kid gonna get? What is he gonna share in? And in our world, like that is always. It's not like the statute tells you.
So does does he inherit like as if there was no will? Or does he inherit?
Exactly the question. That's exactly the question. Because in this case, of course, after 16 years of litigation and whatever, there's almost always some type of settlement. So we never know what is, in this case, we don't know what the court would have decided if the court would have said, okay, we're going to treat you like every other kid. I mean, you guys were in the will as getting, I don't know, the Range Rover and the whatever, the artwork in the house and whatever other bullshit you're getting. But everything else is still going to the education trust. And then the gazillions of dollars are going to the charitable trust for the poor children in Georgia and South Carolina.
Poor children.
So that wouldn't really have gotten you very far, Mr. James Brown number 2. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you weren't even going to get your education paid for because you ain't a grandchild.
No.
So we actually don't know. The South Carolina statute seems very vague onto like, you're now treated as a child, but there is a will, and the will actually says what's going to happen to the children and what they're going to get.
So in your wills, do you include a clause for omitted children?
We do actually include a clause for any child born after or adopted.
And how are they treated?
And they're treated like any other children inside of. So for example, if we were to draft,
that you include those.
But like in this case, poor little James Brown II would have been just as screwed as his, like if this was our trust, let's say, he would have been just as whatever as everyone else because he would have been included. He wouldn't even have been able to say, I'm a pretermitted anything because all of our trusts talk about this after-born children, descendants of whatever. And that's what we do. In Florida, I think and maybe it is in South Carolina too, I'm not sure. But it's very class-based, like the class of children, the class of grandchildren, so the class doesn't close essentially until after the person dies. So they're not
at that point.
Yeah.
If there's a baby after they're dead, it's like,
I mean, those are separate issues. Those are like Sofia
That's a
Vergara.
whole other can of worms.
That's like the Sofia Vergara, like her ex is trying to get the eggs that they had fertilized and whatever. And she's like, absolutely not, bro. Like, these are my eggs too, and you don't get them. And that's all a product of very complicated family and contract law in each state, I imagine.
That's fun in and out of itself.
So that is afterborn. way afterborn.
I actually include those in my prenups.
Do
about
you?
Frozen eggs, and like I have 2 couples who they did IVF and they still have some embryos, and if they were to ever get divorced, those embryos must be immediately destroyed. Like one spouse can't claim them, and you cannot waive them. Like you can't say, okay, just have it. No, you must destroy them.
Interesting. I mean, we've had 2 clients in the last couple of years call here to do their estate planning. And when we asked them, of course, like, who referred you here, whatever, somebody referred them. But the real reason they were looking for an estate planning attorney is their clinic that they're doing IVF in said, as a part of this process, you have to show us an estate plan.
Right. That's
about
great.
what happens, or you need to show like a separate contract. And so
Right.
they're like, oh shit, we need to do our estate planning anyway.
Right.
And so the first time that happened, I'm like, so we're going to put in this estate plan what happens, but like, that's not going to solve your contract issue.
Right.
About like, so interesting, because the IVF clinics themselves probably just don't want to be involved in this litigation. Right. Like they're like, keep us out of
I'm
this.
sure they have some sort, like, especially when there's a donor.
Yeah.
Like a follicle donor.
Sure.
Like if the female were to donate to a couple who can't have kids, her follicles, the female signs away her rights. You know, the donor signs away her rights. Okay, here, it's yours. There's no entitlement and stuff. And they themselves as a couple would decide what happens. But I know that IVF clinics do stuff like that. But I'm not sure if they do like that, like the trust side and like what were to happen if they get divorced or something. But
Yeah.
I do include them in my prenups.
Yeah, I was actually very surprised because, like, the first time we heard that, we're like, wow. I mean, either this clinic has already been sued or something
Right.
about somebody dying and somebody else trying to get the eggs or something like that.
Right.
Or, like, I don't know, the law, because they weren't doing it in Florida. Like, the IVF that they were doing was actually in New York. I feel like it was kind of an insurance scam because they somehow had New York health insurance and that covers the IVF. And I was like, interesting, very interesting, but I digress. This is allegedly an insurance scam. Like that was just like allegedly, yes. You think through this, you're like, why are you doing this in a place that's 1,000 times more expensive, right?
Okay,
and they were like, oh no, it's free. I'm like, free IVF?
Free for who?
I've never heard of that. And they were like, yeah, health insurance in New York covers it. I'm like,
that's nice.
but you're not in. I was like, who has a job in New York? Ninguno.
Is there property in New York?
Nothing. So I was like, I don't ask questions I don't want the answers to.
No, it's not your monkey.
So, but I thought it was super interesting that I guess this clinic in New York had been sued or something, or had somebody, bring this up. I don't know, for them to be like, we don't move forward with this process until you have your estate plan done.
Yeah.
Like, and it has to talk about, you have to show us where it talks about these eggs if one of you passes away.
Right.
Can the other one still, use them? Right. Yeah, which was interesting. And then it happened one other time. Just the clinic had mentioned it to them. It wasn't like, you have to do this. It was like, you really should do this. Like,
look into this.
And the only case that I know in the recent years that made huge headlines was not a celebrity, I don't think, but it was somebody in Latin America. It was the grandparent who wanted access to the child's whatever to continue to have grandchildren, and everybody's like, should she be allowed to? I mean, she did.
Wow,
that absolutely did happen.
Insane.
But should she be allowed basically to? What I mean, I don't even know the answers to that. Right? Like these are like such personal value judgments of like you're taking your kid's embryo, like I don't know, like and you're having a grandchild without that, like. It's also kind of
that's weird.
Tragic,
that's like with
yeah, right.
Like
it is.
With,
it is. It's all a little like. Kind of how do you feel about that?
Yeah.
But she was able to do it, and it clearly became like worldwide news about like the moral, ethical, legal, and scientific things that all kind of surround these topics. So it is kind of weird. It was kind of weird. And I do remember that her son died. I assume the son's wife also died, because then there would have been news of litigation against grandma, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm assuming both had passed away, and grandma knew about the eggs and went and got them implanted in a surrogate, and she now has grandbaby.
Wow.
She now has grandbaby.
I mean, I guess
I'm like, oh, part of it's like, but then part of it's like, oh, I don't know. It's
that child is not growing up in. I mean, the child was wanted, but not wanted by the parents.
Very wanted.
Right.
But yeah, and grandma, it happens here. We do a lot of guardianship. Mm-hmm. Somebody passes away, and sometimes dad is just nowhere to be found. That happens quite a bit. So it's like this weird, I don't know, like no man's land of like, dad never had any rights. Dad is in another country. Mom brought child here. Mom has now passed away, usually in a car accident. And now grandparents are like, we need guardianship over this kid, Right. And just the age difference of what this is going to look like is already like, wow, getting a 5-year-old when you're like 75 is no fun time.
So can you, if a couple comes to you and they're like, well, if we pass, we have embryos, we want to leave it to somebody, can they do that in their will?
They
Their estate planning?
They can, but at the same time, el papel aguanta todo. I mean, my first call would be to somebody like, oh yeah, Vero, do you do this? And, or do you know somebody that specializes in this? Because I feel like this area of law is just being developed.
It's so new.
Right. Yeah. And like everybody, I once had, somebody at one of the conferences that we both attend and he's now kind of advertising himself as like the IVF litigator, which I find kind of interesting because I've never heard anybody say that. And I said something about like a client of mine has purchased eggs, right? And he's like, that's illegal. You can't purchase eggs. And I'm like, oh, babe, I don't know what you're talking about because he's rich enough to purchase them from anywhere in the world. Right. So he is definitely purchasing eggs. I'm telling you that right now.
Like a woman's follicles.
Yes, a woman's
I assume you have to go through like a donor
Well, he went through some clinic in Mexico, apparently, that you buy 10 at a time.
Well, in Mexico, I feel like anything goes.
We can buy kidney, maybe 10 at a time too. I don't know.
Yeah, sí. Quiero comprar un kidney.
I mean, this client that I'm referring to is actually wealthier than God, and bought a bunch of these. And his idea is actually very, I don't know, like, I want to say Kim Kardashian, but not really. It's her kids. He actually wants to create the embryo with his sperm, implant it in a third party. And then a surrogate.
Because men cannot have babies.
Yes, implants it into a surrogate. And then the surrogate, of course, has nothing to do with it. And the egg doesn't even know, like the egg donor doesn't know anything. And like, this is my baby. God. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like you need therapy, but all right.
That's
like, right?
Super
like,
sketch.
It does. He has like this whole like, I don't know if I'll ever get married. And if I do, I wouldn't want them to be able to like take my children from me. And I'm like,
but
he's never been married. There's no like PTSD of like.
So that means he has an issue.
Because
like, clearly nobody in their right mind would want to have a baby with him.
Yeah, I'm like, you should maybe seek therapy before we do this. Like, I don't know. But I did put into like his trust, what's going to happen to that child or those eggs and everything else. Like I had to draft all of that in there. Now, how the conflict of law issue and like the lady that's holding that kid, like the oven, like call it the oven.
When surrogate. The oven, I'm sure she has her own contract with him.
I assume, right? Yeah. So, and I haven't seen that contract. I don't think this has happened. I hope not. He should tell me. Note to self.
Call me and tell me.
Call the client, get an update. But I don't even know, like if that person that now has the baby is in another state. And I mean, there's just so many issues.
Forget about the surrogate because it's not her DNA. I'm more worried about the Mexican lady who gave away 10 of her follicles.
She doesn't even know like that her follicles are.
But like legally, she has rights.
Oh man, I don't.
Like imagine she were to move to Florida. The guy's in Florida.
And now all of a sudden, like 23
she's like, oh my God, that baby looks just like me. Oh my God, so does that one.
Yeah, like me. 23andMe.
23andMe.
Every week,
exactly.
I got like a new 5 cousins.
My God.
Are you kidding me? Like,
so then it's like, okay, biologically she's mine. Or the baby is mine.
Right. No. And let's be really clear. If my client dies, there's like hundreds of millions of dollars that are going to go to his, let's say there's one follicle created into a human. Like, you know what I mean? Like, created into an embryo, created into a human.
Created and put into a surrogate.
Right? Like, now there's great, let's say, motivation to be like, my child.
Oh my God.
I love you.
How are you?
I always
you
felt.
look just like me.
You just like me. I've been looking for you across the world. I don't know,
but
man.
I mean, at that point, dad is dead.
Like,
so it's
dad is dead. Dad will be dead in all of these scenarios we're running. So, but so many issues, right?
That child is going to have so much trauma.
Litigation, and most of your world is litigation.
Yes.
Of course, there are prenups and post-ups and now cohabitation agreements and this thing. But most of the time, it's court-based. It's litigation. Yes. In my practice, let's say it's not 50-50, but it's close of like planning versus the administration and the litigation. So it just goes how it goes. I mean, this is all to be litigated, so to speak. This is all to go in front of some judge that has to now
decide,
analyze really complicated different areas of law.
Which I'm sure sometimes they haven't even seen. And they are just like, I guess we'll do this.
I guess we'll try this and let's see what the appellate court says.
Exactly.
Right? Like, let's see what happens.
That's kind of scary when you think about it.
It is very scary. Well, that's why we tell everybody to stay out of litigation. Like, do prenups.
Decide your own case. Don't have somebody who's never lived your life and been married to either of you decide your life for you.
Girl, it's, man. Man, but how often do you see that people actually do a prenup or a postnup instead of
I
just...
actually do quite a few
Yeah?
prenups. Yeah,
That's good.
I do. I do quite a few prenups.
Do you feel like social media has increased the awareness around those things?
1,000%.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Yeah.
Because from when I started to now,
Yeah.
oh yeah.
I feel like that's absolutely the case.
Oh, yeah.
Like definitely the all of the tickety talks and the whatever, and just like people have to create content and they start talking about different things. And even like a financial advisor I saw the other day talking about, prenups and postnups. And I was like, okay, that's great. Free advertising for the family law attorneys. That's fantastic. But social media has definitely created so much more awareness. Yeah. And I mean, good and bad, right?
And their parents too. So like, it's like their parents went through horrible divorces and then they tell them like, hey, make sure you get a prenup.
Yeah.
Like you need to do this. You need to protect because you're going to inherit all these things that if you die, she's going to get everything. And then that's, you know what I mean? It's, yeah.
Yep. So I think we're right around that time. Do you have any last words of advice for our podcast audience? Any?
Stick around for number 2 because I'm sure we'll do this again.
Oh,
we have much more to talk about.
So much. Oh my God, there's so many other
so
things
much
with
more
family
to talk
issues.
about.
Like Howard Hughes, apparently married somebody in the middle of the ocean, and then where do you get divorced when you get married in the middle of the ocean?
It's maritime.
Exactly. We will do this again.
Oh my goodness.
We will do this again.
How fun.
So thank you, Vero, for being on our podcast, and for all of you watching us. Remember, whether you're a celebrity, rich, poor, or otherwise, you must plan ahead to protect yourself, your family, your assets, and don't forget to follow us. All of your links will be above, below, wherever it is that you're watching or listening
in the
to
vicinity.
this. So follow us on the Facebook, the Tickety Talk, and everywhere else you consume podcasts. Until next time.
Bye. Thank you.